Okay, this is stage 1 of the creating a Canon tutorial. As I mentioned in the introduction, we'll be starting off by drawing our modeling plan for the Canon. Modeling plans are really great for getting your ideas down onto paper before you begin your modeling. Means you don't have to worry about any design when you're doing your modeling. You can just get straight in there and get the model built. They're also really good for sharing your ideas with other artists who might be working on the same project as you. So we're in Adobe Photoshop and we want to come up to File, then New Document. The first thing you're going to want to look at is this units here. You're going to want to change this to pixels if it's not already set to that. And then for width we want to put in 1800 and then the height 1400. If you haven't messed around with any of the other settings, they should be the same. If not, just have a quick look through here and make sure all those settings line up. For the name, we will call it Canon Modeling Plan, and just OK. Now that we have a new document, we're going to set up a grid. This will help in us lining up our views, but also to help you follow along. So if you go up to Edit, Preferences, then Guides, Grid and Slices. In here I've already set these options up. The ones we want are on Grid. If you go over to Grid Line Every, we want to change that to 32, and then we want to change again the units over to pixels. And the only thing we want to change after that is the subdivisions. Just set that to 1. Once that's set up, just press OK. You won't see anything straight off the bat, but if you go up to View, Show, then Grid, you can then see the grid inside your document. You can also press Control and apostrophe, and that's the shortcut for turning your grid on and off. And we'll just leave that one on for now. Just a tiny bit more setting up to do. We want to go up to Edit, then back down to Preferences, and then back up the list to Units and Rulers. The option that we're looking for is the rulers option. We want to change it from centimeters to pixels. So change that and then press OK. Just so we're not staring at a white background the whole time, we're going to change the background color by double clicking on this color swatch, going over to the RGB value, and we're going to change each value to 180. So just typing in 180, pressing tab on the keyboard, 180, tab, 180. Going up and pressing OK now. Going over to the paint bucket tool, clicking on that once, and then clicking on the background. Okay, great, that's all set up now. The next thing we want to do is add some folders in here. So I'm going to click this button 3 times and then double clicking on the name. I'm going to name the folders after the views we want to be making. So top, front and side. We want to go down and change our color back to black, so we can just double click on the color swatch, click in here, and then just drag it back down to the bottom left hand corner, and that'll be 100% black. Just click OK. With the side folder still selected, go down and create a new layer. Then go up to the top left and choose the selection marquee tool. We're going to actually start making our cannon now. So in the bottom right hand corner, not the very bottom right corner, but somewhere close, start to draw out a rectangle. We want it to be 32 pixels high and then 480 pixels wide, just like that. Once you've got that selection, you can let go of the mouse, right click on the selection and go up to stroke. We want to use these settings of 2 pixels and the color of black. Just click on OK and then tap once in the background, and there you can see we've started to create the base of our cannon. Okay, from here we want to click on the top view. We want to create a new layer under it. Then we want to go up to the marquee selection tool and change it to the elliptical one. We want to click down near the original object that we've made, click and start dragging out, and then hold shift to make the selection perfectly round. And the numbers that we're looking for are 480 pixels by 480 pixels. Once you've got that, let go, right click and go stroke, same settings as before, and go OK. Like before, just tapping once in the background just to remove the selection, and we now want to move the top object up, just so we've got a bit more room on the top of the base to build the rest of the cannon. So using the move tool and holding shift, I'm just going to start dragging this object straight up. Once it's got a little bit of space, I'm just going to use the up arrow key just to get it so this bottom line is sitting halfway between a grid space. Now because this object is perfectly round, in the side view it would look exactly the same from the side view as it would the front view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on our side view, do duplicate layer, okay, and I'm just going to drag that up to the front view folder, and like I did to move the top view up, I'm going to hold shift with the move tool and I'm just going to drag that off to the left. And like with the top view, I'm actually going to put this one halfway between a grid width. You can use the left and right arrow keys just to bump it left and right. Okay, we're just going to save the file by going to File, Save As. I'm just going to create a new folder in here called Modeling Plan. Make sure you've got Photoshop.psd selected so it saves all your layer information, and click on Save. Go OK. We're now going to start working on the barrel of the cannon. So we're going to get right down here in the side view, click on the zoom tool, right click on the background and go actual pixel size, and then by pressing spacebar you can pan down to the bottom right hand corner. So because we're going to be working in the side view, click back on the folder and then create a new layer. We're going to change back over to the rectangle selection tool, and we're going to go 5 grids back, and we're just going to start drawing our new selection up here. So we want to go 160 high and then 240 to the right. 240 will actually sit halfway between a grid point. So roughly find that, and once you've got that selection, right click and do stroke, and OK. So now that we've got this part of the barrel, we're also going to do the thicker support around the barrel, and we'll do that on a new layer. So we're going to go 2 grids back and go about halfway, and we're just going to take that to the halfway point on the other side of the barrel, and then about 115 pixels going to the right. Right click on there and stroke. Okay, great. We're now going to make the sphere on the back of the cannon now. Again, creating a new layer, changing the selection over to the eclipse marquee, and this time I'm going to click halfway in between this line and going to be pressing or clicking once, pressing Shift and Alt at the same time, and then dragging out. Now this will keep it round and then coming out from that point that we clicked on. So get it to a point so it's not quite as wide as the object, so just where it snaps back a little bit. Right click on there and stroke. Now we only want the back part of this object, so going to be going back to the rectangular marquee tool, selecting around the front part of that object and just pressing delete. Okay, just going to create a new layer now for the front part of the barrel. Just going to go halfway up one of these grid spaces, clicking there, dragging across one grid space over the base there, and then stopping half the grid up just to match the other side. Right clicking and going stroke. Okay. So we can clean this up a little bit now by removing these lines in here. That was on layer 3. So selecting that, doing a selection around those lines, and then pressing delete, and that cleans that up. From this point we want to start adding a little bit more shape to the cannon, so just choosing the brush tool, and if you haven't got it set to 2 pixels, change that just so it matches all the other lines we've been doing. I'm going to go halfway between this grid here, clicking, then holding down Shift, and then dragging down to draw that line in. That's all good for layer 3. Back on layer 6 for the front of the barrel, we want to do the same thing. We want to click down here, press Shift, and then drag up. Once you've done that, just to give this barrel a bit more of a tapered look, you'll want to use the rectangle selection again and make a selection just a bit bigger than the barrel itself. Right click and do a free transform. Right click again and go skew. And with this, clicking up in these corner tabs and pressing Shift, I'm just dragging these down a little bit just to taper the barrel off. And once I'm happy with the shape of that, just pressing Enter to get off the free transform mode. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the what we've just done here. I'm going to make this taper in, so selecting layer 3, doing a selection just around the part that we want, right clicking free transform, right clicking again for skew, clicking the corner point, holding shift and then dragging that right down till it a little bit higher than the front of the barrel. Doing the same thing on the bottom, and once I'm happy with the shape, just pressing enter. Again, we can clean this up just a little bit. Going back to layer 6, just going to select the very back of this and press delete. Yeah, it looks much better. This is pretty much finished for the barrel. So what I'm going to do is collapse all these layers down onto, so it's just one object, except for layer 1 because that's our base and we still want that as its own separate object. To merge these down, I'm going to select the top one and then press Ctrl E until they all join up. So now if I turn that layer on and off, you can see it's just the one object. Because this shape is going to be exactly the same from the side view as it is going to be on the top view, we can now right click on this and duplicate it. Move that up to the top view, selecting the move tool, holding shift and clicking, we can now drag this up until it's pretty much sitting straight down this center line here. From this point we're going to make the front part of the barrel, so we're going to go down to the side view to use it as reference. So because we're making the front view, we'll click on the front folder and then make a new layer. Changing over to the Eclipse Marquee tool, we're also going to turn off the grid at this point, so pressing Ctrl and then apostrophe. Then we can now click on the top of the rectangle here, holding shift, drag it out till the bottom of the circle is the same height as the cylinder, and then right click and stroke. We're going to continue to make layers for all of the rectangles that are going to be facing the front view. Stroke that, and just use the move tool to line it up, holding shift to make sure it snaps. New layer, top of here, stroke, new layer again, and just for the barrel tip, and then one last layer for the actual hole in the front of the cannon barrel, so we'll just approximate that. And now that we've got all these, we'll do Ctrl E like we did before, and we'll collapse them all down so it's one object. At this point, we'll turn the grid back on, and then shift this new object across, holding spacebar and clicking and dragging again to pan the camera, and we're just going to move it to the center